What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I cooked these beautiful, tender, smoky, live fire, medium rare rack of lamb with mint chimichurri sauce. Coming up! Lamb! Everybody loves lamb. Well, actually, it's not so popular here in the United States, but in Europe, New Zealand, Australia, lamb is a lot more commonly seen on grills and restaurant menus, and for good reason, too. When cooked properly, lamb is super tasty. It can be really tender. It's really good at pretty much any doneness, and because it's got a stronger flavor than beef or chicken or something, you can really get away with doing some unique flavor profiles. But a lot of people think they don't like lamb because it's so gamey, but if cooked properly and using the right cuts, the gaminess is very easily managed and quite enjoyable. So if you think you're not a big fan of lamb, I highly recommend giving this recipe a try because it is going to be delicious. This is a rack of ribs, also known as a rib roast, rack of lamb, all sorts of things. This came already Frenched, meaning all the meat and fat has been cut away from in between the bones here, which is super convenient, makes for a really nice presentation. But as you can see, we got some beautiful individual ribs here that are gonna cook up real nice. If you wanted to, you could go through and trim out some of this fat if it's looking a little heavy. I typically don't. Fat is pretty flavorful, and if you're scared of the gaminess, you can go through and take some of this out, or if it's a particularly fatty rack, you can come through and take this out. The other thing I like to do is just put a little score between the bones, and that's just gonna help us carving down the road. But other than that, there's really not much to do, other than hit it with some salt. We're gonna give it somewhat of a dry brine. If I had the time, I would let it go overnight, but because it's got this membrane on the back and it's got a good amount of silver skin on the front, the dry brine is really not going to have full effect. So I'm just going to hit it with some salt, let it do its thing until I get the fire started. You can also go through and scrape these bones even more, get them really nice and clean, but that's just more for presentation than anything else. Just kind of scrape it with the knife. Gonna season it pretty heavily with some kosher salt, both sides as always. Now we're just going to pop this in the fridge until we are ready to throw it onto the fire. Burn, baby, burn. We are firing up the OG ChudBox today, Mini ChudBox that is. This is the first version of the Mini ChudBox, kind of my prototype, lives around the shop. The new and improved version is on sale now at ChudsBBQ.com. But principle is still the same. The only difference is that the door now swings open this way instead of opening like this and sticking with magnets. All right, now that we've got a ripping hot fire going in this here Mini ChudBox, I think it's time to sear off these lamb ribs. So as you can see, all the salt really penetrated into the meat, gave it a really nice deep red color, but where all the fat is, you can still see the salt crystals on there because they didn't really penetrate the fat so much, which is why I don't really see it necessary to do this step overnight. But that's looking real good to me. So now, let's throw it on. So really what we're trying to do here is just get a really good sear on this. You can do this over charcoal, you can do it on a gas grill, you can do it on a flat top. We're just trying to get some really good color, some good flavor. I decided to go over these oak logs just for some extra flavor. Woohoo! That's exactly what we're looking for. Nice deep crust, golden brown, nothing too crispy. Looking real nice. While this may look nicely done and fully cooked, it's still completely raw on the inside. It just has a nice sear on it. But while it's hot, we're gonna hit it with a little Dijon mustard just for a little extra flavor. And it'll give us a nice tacky surface to help all the rest of the rub stick. And also I read somewhere that mustard is a natural antioxidant that can really help with the gaminess of lamb. So if you're not a fan of the gamey flavor and the fat of lamb, then throwing a little mustard into the mix can help with that. But we're just gonna let this kind of melt on, cook on, then we're gonna throw it on some indirect heat and let it come up to temperature. So at this stage in the cook, you could really easily just slide this over to the indirect side of this here Mini ChudBox and finish these off low and slow. This thing is rocking about 3 300 degrees right now, but I figured because I got these two smokers out here, I might as well finish them off on the offset. That way we get some really nice direct heat flavor from the sear, from the ChudBox, from the direct heat cooker, and then finish it off with some of that really nice offset Texas smooth post oak smoke. All right, while this pit comes up to temperature, I think it's time to finish seasoning this here rack of lamb and throw it on. So at this stage, you can pretty much do whatever flavor profile you're looking for. You could do some curry rub, you could do some herbs, you could do pretty much whatever you like. But today I'm gonna keep it pretty classic with some good old black pepper and a little bit of garlic on there, just to add some extra flavor and keep that Texas smoke vibe going. Oh man, that looks good enough to eat already. So at this point, the temperature at which you are gonna finish these off is really gonna help determine how smoky they are. Just like anything else, if you want them really smoky, I'd say cook them around 225. If you want them just done really quick, a little extra bark on there, cook them at 350. For me today, I'm gonna cook them at about 300 degrees, maybe 275, and I'm gonna aim bone side towards the fire because there's still some extra fat concentration by the bones, and I want that to get a little extra help rendering down. While we wait for this rack o' lamb to come up to temperature, I think it's time we make ourselves a little bit of lamb sauce so Gordon Ramsay doesn't yell at me. So because it's summertime and I just did a little bit of live fire cooking, today I'm thinking about doing a little twist on a chimichurri sauce to go with this lamb, which is gonna start out with a bunch of Italian parsley, to which we're gonna add some mint, gotta throw in some garlic, got some red onions as well. Got some red pepper flakes going in for a little bit of heat. Pinch of dry mustard. Drizzle of some red wine vinegar, just for some acidity. Freshly cracked black pepper. And of course, some salt. Just gonna give this a little choppy choppy. If I remember to plug it in first. And now we're gonna add a little bit of olive oil to the party. And the reason I didn't add this at first is just because I was a little concerned about it trying to emulsify and get a little too thick. That is looking good to me. Always taste for seasoning and acidity, but I think this is tasting pretty good. This beautiful rack o' lamb is rocking right around 130 degrees, which is where I like it. So we're gonna pull this off and let this rest for just a little bit, and then we'll slice in. What a perfectly sized vessel. I'm just gonna hold it on this shot for a while because it's beautiful. I gotta put more green things on this channel. Yeah, right. So this rack of lamb has been resting for a good 20-30 minutes now, and I think it's time to slice into it and see how it came out. You're pretty much just aiming right between the bones, but I always recommend going from the back. That way you can really see what you're doing. And that's exactly what we're looking for, folks. Beautiful pink color, edge to edge. Really nice crust on there. Nice clean bone. Oh, that looks so tasty. I gotta take a bite. And you can really taste the two different types of smoke on there, which is pretty cool. Fat is pretty well rendered too, which is really nice. 0% gamey. It's so juicy. I'm really surprised we don't see these more on Texas barbecue menus. God, they're so good. And they're so tender too, you don't even need a fork and knife to eat them. They're like bite through, just like a pork rib. Oh, that meat, it's so good. I got so excited I forgot about the sauce. La 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 la. Ooh. Let's give it a try with the chimmy on there. That's so good. I know lamb and mint is kind of cliche, but there's a reason for it. It just goes so well with the lamby flavor. That fat on the bone is so good. That pepper crust, tell you what, can't go wrong. A little dippy. Oh yeah. It's so tender. Definitely making this one again. Beep beep. Come on. All right, guys, and that is it. That is my version of how to smoke a rack of lamb. I cannot urge you enough to give this recipe a try. They came out super tasty. And also, this recipe can go in any different direction. You know, any spritz, glaze, sauces. You could individually cut them, sear them, grill them, pan fry them. So I'm sure we're gonna see this cut again in the future on this channel. But if you do give this recipe a try, please hit me up on Instagram at ChudsBBQ. Slide into the DMs if you have any questions. Tag me if you give this recipe a try. I'm sure you're gonna like it. And if you're on the fence about about whether or not you like lamb, trust me, this recipe is the way to go. The tangy sauce, ooh, so good on these hot summer nights. But head over to ChudsBBQ.com if you want to learn more about the ChudBox or any other pits I'm building and selling. Head over to the Leroy and Lewis Patreon if you want to see some more content from me and the whole gang from Leroy and Lewis. Let me know in the comments below what you want to see me cook next, and until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!